How can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone. We are just waiting for a few others to come in. We'll get started promptly at 10 a.m. Well, good morning, everyone. We're glad that you could be with us today for this webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. We'll probably have a few more trickle in as we begin to present, but I first want to start by thanking everyone for choosing to be a part of this morning. You're actually breaking some new ground. This is our first of our webinar series, something new that we're trying to provide an opportunity for students who may not be able to make it on campus for one of our workshops to be able to participate in this. And we want to thank you very much for participating today. I do want to start with some housekeeping type things. We ask that everyone who is within this, please remain on mute. If you have questions, you can access the group chat and present those questions in the group chat. Don't be afraid to do that. Our moderators, my colleagues here who are with us, Ms. Roxanne and Ms. Laura, will be fielding those questions as they come in. We'll have some time for questions later on. So if you do have those questions, please save those for the group chat and remain on mute. The other thing is we are recording today for posterity. We want to be able to give the opportunity for other students to have access to this webinar. So please be aware that we are recording. And with that being said, we are running pretty close to on schedule. So I want to go ahead and get started this morning. So let's go ahead and share this. Give me just a moment. So again, we do want to thank you for being a part of the Recover This Semester workshop today. As part of this webinar, we're going to be going over how you as a student can reclaim your semester after having a semester that may not go too well. We see this many times with returning students or even new first-time freshmen who in their first semester aren't settled in. And that's who this workshop is really designed for. So let me just talk about our webinar team for today. And I would like to invite Ms. Laura and Ms. Roxanne, if you want to introduce yourself and just give us a brief summary of who you are and what you do here at the college. So Laura, if you want to kick it off. Laura, hold on for just a second because I don't think you're unmuted. I can't hear you.
What about now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I'd like to take this moment to introduce myself. My name is Laura Brown. I'm one of the college's completion coaches, and it hurts our heart when students are not successful. So I'm really hoping that today's Recover Your semester workshop will be helpful and useful to us. We are here to help you be successful.
Thanks, Laura. Ms. Roxanne?
Hello, everyone. My name is Roxanne Evans, completion coach here at the Moore County campus. I'm happy to have all of you join us today. We hope that what we have to share with you today will help you to have a better understanding of how you can recover and how you can come up with a strategy for success to have a better semester this time around. We want you to know that we're here for you, we have resources available to you, and we want to see you be successful. That's very important to us. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. As I stated earlier, Ms. Laura and Ms. Roxanne will be fielding questions when the appropriate time comes. So, ladies, thank you for helping out today. I'm Kyle Macon. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Success here at the Moore County campus. My goal in today is pretty clear. I want to be able to help you get back on the right track. And that was really what this webinar was designed to do and designed to help for. So looking at, let's just kind of go over our webinar goals and objectives. So our goal is we want to help you get back on track for graduation within 1 to 2 semesters after having an underperforming semester. It's really critical within those 1 to 2 semesters to try everything you can to get back on track. Generally what we see after that second semester is students aren't as successful and the success rates really drop down. So our goal is to help you get back on track as soon as possible. And so let's just talk about our objectives for the day. We want to help you identify contributing factors to your past performance. We also want to help you have strategies to improve your GPA and academic performance. And then we want to discuss the academic status and how it impacts students differently. Every student is a little bit different when it comes to their academic career, and we want to provide you with the information that is best for that. So I want to start today by saying don't give up. This is the biggest thing that we see happen with students. You get frustrated because you may be placed on academic probation, or you may be on an academic suspension of 1 term or 2 terms. Don't give up. These are setbacks, but they aren't things that can prevent you always from succeeding. And really what we see a lot of times is when students are placed on something like academic probation, they see it as this this death sentence for their academic career. And in actuality, what that probation is there to do is kind of give you a reminder of, hey, there's some things we need to adjust. There's some things that we need to do, take care of. And I see students also with this, they bounce back or they feel like giving up because they try to maybe speed through things a little too quickly. And what I want to remind you is that education as a whole is a marathon and not a sprint. It's not about how quickly necessarily you can complete all of your classes, which we want to be mindful of time because it does translate to a career opportunity for you as you complete your degree program. But really, perseverance is the enduring factor of higher education. It's really about how willing are you to stick to it when things get tough. And that is not just a semester or an overall academic career mindset. That is a day-to-day mindset, class to class. How willing am I to stick with it when everything gets tough, and plan for myself for the long term, and keep in mind that long-term goal. And so education as a whole is a marathon and not a sprint. It's not trying to speed through it as quickly as possible to take 18, 21 hours to get through. It may mean for you to be academically successful to take maybe 1 or 2 classes, 6 to 9 hours. And I know that financial aid funding has some to do with that. But that's where you can do some planning with your completion coach or do some planning on your own to figure out what pace is right for you to be successful. So let's just talk about how you can start to reclaim the semester. And it really begins with self-assessment. You can only control what you can only control. And a lot of times when we talk with students, we sit down with students, we hear a lot of reasons as to why things went the way that they went. And we understand that things happen. Life happens along the way. That's one of the things we tell students in new student orientation is one or two things is going to happen when you start your semester. Life's going to happen, or you're going to have academic troubles in the classroom. And sometimes it's not one or the other. It's a combination of the two. An extended illness as well as struggling with material means you're out of class for a longer amount of time and means you're not quite as successful. You have to begin to look at the situation, not with those external factors, but what within myself can I do? What could I have done differently? And you have to understand your unique issues. Everyone has their own set of unique issues when it comes to addressing the problems that they've had in prior semesters. But it takes that little bit of critical thinking of looking back at what went wrong last semester. And then asking yourself, what could I do to prevent that? Or what could I have done a little bit differently? And it's not always as simple as, well, I just had a bad instructor. Okay, no, we hear that. But what could you have done differently? Could you have used study groups? Could you have gone to the provided campus resources like the Writing Center or the Math Lab to improve your performance in the class? So there's elements that you have some control over. Maybe it's not even in utilizing those campus resources. Maybe it's just utilizing the time that you have. And so you didn't manage your time well in a prior semester because you were overextended on work hours. Or maybe you just spent a little too much time being distracted. You have distractions in your study areas, and so you need to change up what where you're studying at and how you study. But you need to specifically understand your issues in the prior terms to understand how you can be successful.
So what? Downstairs.
In this term. So understand your specific challenges, and then consider what your challenges are this semester. You know, with your prior term, you probably had some challenges that were out there that prevented you from being successful. But you've got a unique new set of challenges right now. What are you encountering? Maybe it's a different class. Maybe you are in a math class now that you weren't in the last term, and you're not quite as confident in math as you were, let's say, English. What resources do you need to utilize? What challenges lay ahead of you? Identifying those challenges gives you a unique opportunity to think about, okay, what options do I have to handle these challenges? A lot of this is just about self-awareness. What went wrong? What can I change about it? What do I have coming forward? What do I need to do to prepare for that? And that may be where you are short on time, so you need to manage your time a little bit better, which means you need to plan your weeks out a little bit stronger, mapping everything out. But whatever it is that you decide, whatever challenges are in front of you, whatever options are out there, you need to create action-oriented solutions. And this is what, there's this kind of committee effect that happens sometimes. And we joke around about it in the professional world. It's like, if you want something done, get a committee, because committees can talk about a lot of things, but not always get things done. And so sometimes we do that in our life. We look at all the options that are out there and we say, hey, this is what I need to do, but I really don't want to create an action-oriented solution to it, and so I don't act on it. So choose action-oriented solutions and start as soon as you can. Now, we also want to encourage you, part of that action-oriented solution is sometimes it's just knowing about where you are going. When you don't have direction, when you don't have goals, when you don't have expectations of yourself, it's hard to meet those expectations. And so we encourage students not only to consider their challenges, to look at the options they have available, to create action-oriented items for themselves, but also set some SMART goals. So be specific. Make sure your goals are measurable, attainable. Make sure they're realistic and that they're time sensitive. So, sometimes when people set goals, they say, I'm going to graduate. That's a very, very, very broad goal. Whereas a smart goal for you right now would be maybe within the next semester, by the end of the spring 2020 semester, I will have achieved a 2.0 GPA by making A's and B's in all of my classes. Now, that'll be something that you may need to sit down with your completion coach to figure out, what do I need to do? How do I need to get to the point where I need to be? But creating that SMART goal, that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-sensitive goal is important, because with those SMART goals, you can easily say, have I achieved my goal or not? And because you've been specific in it, I want to maintain a 2.0 GPA. So that's measurable. Did you meet a 2.0 or not? By the end of the spring semester, that's time sensitive and it's realistic. So, and that may be where that's too short of a time frame for you because of your prior academic progress. That may be too short of a time. Maybe you need 2 semesters. Again, that's where working with your completion coach is really important. And that's the last thing, is start working on this now. The more you can work on this now, the better you'll be. So make sure that once you set these goals, you start working toward these goals. So let's talk about what happens, though, when you have a failing grade. And our motto tends to be take and replace. When you're talking about raising GPA, especially for academic standing, failing grades have the largest impact on your GPA out of everything. And so when you have a failing grade, it pulls your GPA down severely because it doesn't count. You don't receive any quality points for the credit hours that you earn. I know that's a lot of educational lingo in there. Basically what it is the credit hours that you have, for whatever grade you receive, you earn an amount of quality points. And our goal is to create the largest gap between quality points and GPA hours. So if you fail a class, you receive GPA hours, but you receive no quality points. So you reduce that gap between the two. Now you can replace a grade. You can retake. Well, let's kind of talk about the retaking the class, because there's some confusion over this. There's a 3-time rule, and basically what this rule is you can take a class up to 3 times, and you can overwrite your grade twice. So let's say that you take English 1010 and you're not successful in it the first time. You fail the class. Well, you can take English 1010 again. Let's say the second time that you take it, you make a C. Well, that's middle. It's better, but it doesn't help your GPA the way that you want it to. So you take it again a third time, and this time, let's say you make a B. Okay, better grade. That B overwrites the C, and the C had overwritten the F. The C and the F will still show up on your transcript, but they won't count towards your GPA. Now, after that third time, every grade that you earn, let's say you decide you want to retake it again, every grade that you earn will stand on its own at that point. So you have up to 3 times to overwrite a failing grade or a bad grade in a class. Now, here's a word of caution, though. Let's say you have a class like a C and you want to make an A or a B in it because you're trying to get in the nursing program. I would caution you, and I'm not dissuading you from retaking that class, but please know whatever grade you make when you retake a class, it will overwrite the prior, and that's for better or worse. So you make an A, it'll overwrite it with an A, but if you make an F, it'll overwrite that C with an F. So please be aware of that, and it raises the stakes every time that you retake a class, because your goal should be to make better in that class. Now, because you've taken it before, you should be able to make better in that class. But you can replace a grade. You can take it up to 3 times, take a class up to 3 times to replace a grade. Again, the newest overwrites the old. So we're going to use whatever grade is the newest. This is, though, the fastest way to improve your GPA. So if you have failing grades that are out there and want to improve your GPA quickly, we always encourage students, look at what failing grades that you have, what classes you can retake those to try to improve your GPA for academic standing. Now let's talk about academic status and academic standing. Academic standing is based on what your overall GPA is for us here at the institution. And so we have good standing, and that is no worries there. Your GPA is at the point that it needs to be at. But if your GPA drops below a certain point based on the amount of credit hours that you're in, you could be placed on academic probation. Academic probation means that your GPA is below the required amount. Most of the time, it is a 2.0 GPA. So if you fall below a 2.0 overall GPA range, and that's collegiate level GPA, learning support is not included in that. If you're below a 2.0, then you may be placed on academic probation. And academic probation really is just a warning. It's to say, hey, you haven't done too well. You might want to consider, getting some assistance. You might want to talk to someone to get some help to get back in good standing. And probation requires you to maintain a minimum semester GPA of 2.0 or higher, and you stay on academic probation until your overall GPA is 2.0 or higher. So what we're looking at essentially is C or better in all of your classes that you take in a semester that you're in probation, and you stay on academic probation till your overall GPA reaches 2.0 or higher. Now, let's say for some reason you fail to maintain the minimum semester GPA of a 2.0 and you don't go above the 2.0 or higher GPA at the end of the probation term. That will place you on academic suspension. Academic suspension means that you'll have to set out, the first time academic suspension means you set out a semester. So let's say for right now we're in the spring semester. It's a full term semester, the 16-week semester. So let's say you're on academic probation now. You don't meet the requirements of the 2.0. You don't meet the overall requirement of 2.0. And so it places you on a one-term suspension. Now, summer's not considered in that, so you would have to set out the fall semester and be able to return the spring semester. After the first time on suspension, you come back, you're on academic probation. They give you another chance to bring your GPA up to a 2.0 or higher with that minimum semester GPA of 2.0. And so it gives you an opportunity for, let's say for some reason that doesn't happen. Then you go on a 2-term suspension. So that's a full year suspension after that. And then you come back on academic probation. So really when you're in academic probation, it is the best opportunity to try to raise your GPA back up. That's the time to act, is when you're placed on academic probation. Okay, and this is a question that always comes up. What about financial aid? So please understand that academic suspension and financial aid, academic GPA and financial aid GPA are calculated on different scales. So it is possible sometimes for a student to be in good standing with financial aid, but academically not be in good standing. But it does happen a lot of the time that if you're on academic suspension, more than likely you're on financial aid suspension. And so what about financial aid? Well, the biggest thing is, first, watch your MyMotlow account. You should be checking your MyMotlow account on a regular basis, as well as your Motlow email. This is the official communication form for the campus. So if you are receiving information about financial aid, it would come through your campus email. If you do have any questions, though, don't be afraid to speak with the financial aid office. Reach out and give them a call, and ask them any questions in regards to your financial aid. Please understand, though, that they are bound by the set of federal rules that are out there. So as much as we may want financial aid, if we haven't performed academically, sometimes we don't qualify for that financial aid. And that provides an opportunity to file an appeal sometimes. Depending on where you are in your situation, everyone's situation is different. You may have to file a financial aid appeal, especially if something drastic happened during the semester which caused you to go on to academic probation or financial aid probation. There's an appeal that you need to file. It's called a SAP, Satisfactory Academic Progress, and you may have to file that. And so that is an appeal form that you go through. You mark your reasoning out for it. You have to provide copies of your My Montlow GPS. You also have to provide documentation to support your claims. That'll go before a committee to be reviewed and either approved or denied. So from a financial aid standpoint, watch your financial aid, talk to financial aid, and then if you have to, file a financial aid appeal if needed. All right, I want to pause for just a moment. Do we have Roxanne or Laura? Do you see any questions in the chat for us?
I have not.
Okay.
But I want to let students know that they definitely, if they have questions about anything you're saying, they're certainly welcome to enter the chat and pop that question out there, and we'll be happy to answer it for you.
Yeah, and I did want to say as well, on the suspension and probation, Laura brought this up in the chat. You will have to reapply to the college if you go on academic suspension. And it's just a readmit application. You can sign in with your My Montlow information to get back in to that. But you will have to reapply to the college if you find yourself on academic suspension.
I think I'd like to just add one thing, Kyle, if I could,
Okay.
regarding the GPA, just to summarize that or clarify that a little more. I just want to make sure everybody understands that you can have two GPAs. The academic GPA is what we use to graduate you. And so any learning support classes you've taken is not included in that academic GPA. That's the one you're going to see when you log into your My Montlow GPS. You will see that GPA. The financial aid GPA does include your grades and your learning support classes, and that's why sometimes they can be a little bit different. And I just wanted to clarify that in case anybody had confusion over that.
Great, thanks, Roxanne.
Sure.
I appreciate you doing that, and yeah, appreciate that. Okay, so let's look at one other thing, and this is something that Ms. Allison Martin, our Director of Adult Initiatives, asked me to include into this, and this is academic fresh start. Now, I do want to caution you, academic fresh start does require you to meet specific qualifications in order to apply for it. And we're going to go over those qualifications here in a minute. But what academic fresh start, it removes failing or insufficient grades from your academic GPA for consideration. So it's going to look at grades that let's say you're in a business degree that requires you to have a C or better grade in a course, and you make a D. It would remove that from your consideration for GPA, or a failing grade. It would remove. However, you have to meet the qualifications. The qualifications for academic fresh start require that you have not been enrolled in college for at least 4 years prior to the academic fresh start. So we're talking 8 semesters, and that is any institution, post-secondary institution, post-high school institution, for at least 4 years. When you come back, it also requires you to apply for that within the first semester of your collegiate year. You'll provide a letter in writing to the Office of Admissions and Records, the Director of Admissions and Records, requesting academic fresh start, and it will take those out of consideration for your academic status. Now, I do want to note this does not remove failing grades from your transcript. It just keeps them from counting in your academic GPA for that fresh start. This also doesn't affect the GPA for financial aid. And so understand that if you request an academic fresh start, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get financial aid. You'll still probably have to go through an appeal process to receive financial aid at that point. But it is an option. We've seen this be successful with Reconnect students who are coming back in their first semester who maybe haven't done well. They went to school in the early 90s and they're coming back after having a rough time then. And they do an academic fresh start, which puts them in good standing, which takes some pressure off of them to get their GPA back to a 2.0 so quickly. They can kind of have an opportunity to start new. So that academic fresh start, you have to meet those qualifications, and all those are listed in the catalog. All right, and so I kind of want to end today with this quote. It says, "Be willing to be a beginner every single morning." Meister Eckhart. Every day is a new opportunity. Every day is a fresh start for you, and you have to make the choice continually. Remember that education is a marathon and not a sprint. And so each morning when you wake up, kind of saying, what can I tackle today to help me be in a better position for tomorrow? What can I take care of today? What assignment can I go ahead and work on? What resources do I need to reach out to today so that I can achieve those SMART goals that I've set for myself later on? That's the attitude that we have to have when we're trying to build ourselves back up. When you knock a wall over, let's say you knock a brick wall over, you can't start laying the top layer until the bottom layer's been laid. You have to lay those bricks first at the bottom and build your way up to the top. And the same is true with our academics. Sometimes when things go awry, when our wall gets knocked over, our building gets knocked down, we've got to start with the foundation and build up from there and not be afraid to ask for help. And that's one of the biggest things I can encourage you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Sit down with a completion coach. Sit down with an advisor. Talk to your instructors. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't leave college asking questions and thoughtful and insightful questions about how you can improve, then we haven't been successful. We want you to be able to take that role yourself. If you don't understand something in a class, set up time with an instructor during their office hours. Go and sit with them and say, okay, I get this and this, but I don't understand this. Go in prepared. Be prepared to talk with them. But every day is a new opportunity for you to build this back up. And remember, we want to take care of this as soon as we can. The longer we delay this, the harder it can be on us. And I want to open, that kind of concludes what we've got from the presentation standpoint. But I did want to give an opportunity for questions. Just briefly, if you do have questions, you can send them in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. Again, we do appreciate you being part of the presentation today. I do have some resources available. I have a worksheet in regards to what we talked about today, identifying those problems. How can I act on those problems? What options do I have? And then how do I act? Where do I go from here? And it helps you kind of reevaluate that prior semester.
And how can students access those worksheets, Kyle? Would you like them to email you?
I'm going to send them out via email.
Okay.
I'm also going to send a link to this presentation if you want to reference back to it later on as well.
I would love to add one other thing. I want to go back to what you said about being action-oriented and setting goals for yourself. So we're ending week 4 of a 16-week semester. That gives you about 11 weeks, 12 weeks to get together a goal. And if you haven't set yourself one of those small goals, those SMART goals that Kyle told you about, it's fine to do it now. I would encourage you to do it now. And I also want you to all remember that, there's an old saying about eating the elephant one bite at a time. It is much easier to be slow and steady and successful at what you're doing than to try to take it all in at once. So I do want to encourage you to don't get down on yourself for failing. There is a brighter horizon for you, and just take it slow and steady. Remember to reach out to your completion coaches. They can help you come up with an action plan and even help you in setting those goals.
So Kyle, it looks like we have a question.
Okay.
One of our students is asking, is it possible to raise a D to a B?
Okay, so that is a great question. So, is it possible to raise a D to a B? Well, there's several factors that can go into that. Yes, it's totally possible to raise a D to a B. Now, in the midst of the semester, depending on how the breakdown of the grade is calculated, the likelihood of that happening really depends on that percentage-wise and what you still have out there. In week 4, I would say it's still very likely in many cases for you to raise a D to a B. But the question is not just can it happen, it's what am I willing to do to make that B happen.
It looks like he's referring to in regards to last semester.
Okay,
So in other words, last semester was a
that's
B. Okay.
And I'm glad that he clarified there. Yeah, so within a semester, it really depends on the breakdown within the course syllabus. Now, for prior semesters, yes, if you retake the course, you can raise a D grade to a B. But again, you have to take into consideration, what do I need to do to make that B grade happen? Mm-hmm. What were my struggles with this class the last time? And being realistic with ourselves with what our struggles are. How much time did I dedicate to that class outside of the classroom setting, whether that be online in D2L or in the physical classroom? We recommend for every credit hour that you're enrolled, you have 2 to 3 hours. If it's an on-ground class, I generally recommend 3 to 4 if it's an online class, because you're doing a heavier amount of reading. There's more writing consideration. So you have to give yourself ample time to study. And that doesn't have to be a 3 or 4 hour block. That needs to probably be, it can be 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, but you're making the time for that class to make sure that you're successful. And then if there are questions, again, you go back, talk to the instructor, feel free to reach out to them. If you have trouble contacting that instructor, contact your completion coach. Get in touch with them so that they can provide you with campus resources or help you determine, what do I need to change? Maybe it's my study style. Maybe it's my note-taking style. Am I reading the textbook for the class? P.S. Always read the textbook for class. And so, what steps do I need to be taking to make sure that I can raise a D grade that I had in a prior semester when I retake it to a B? And you do have somewhat of an advantage because you've already taken this class once. So you know somewhat of what to expect when you retake the course. But yes, it's totally possible to raise a D grade to a B grade. But the question then becomes, what am I willing to do to get that grade there? Great question. Any other questions? All right, I want to thank everyone again for being a part of this today. Appreciate your involvement, and we will make this available online later on for your benefit. If you do have questions, I would encourage you to log into your My Montlow account. Under the student tab, you can go to My Montlow GPS. Underneath that, you'll see an advisor listed there. That is generally your completion coach. Get to know your completion coach, sit down with them. I would encourage you to go in and have a one-on-one meeting with them. They can help you build an academic plan to help you be successful moving forward, and can help you navigate, and that's really their role and responsibility here, is to help you navigate your way to graduation. And especially if you found yourself in a situation where you're maybe in academic probation, that that you can get some help to get back on track. But again, thank everyone for being here today.
We also, as completion coaches, I do want to add this, have outstanding resources such study skills. We've got some great study tips, great test taking tips that we can share with you as your coach. So it's a great idea to reach out to your completion coach and get your hands on some of those tips.
For sure.
And I'd like to add that they need to utilize our on-ground campus resources like the Writing Center and the Math Lab. These things can really help you turn the corner when you're not being successful. If it wasn't for the Writing Center and the Math Lab, I don't think I would have made it through my first couple of semesters. These are invaluable and they're free to you as a Motlow student. So please take advantage of them. We want you to be successful.
Glad you mentioned that, Laura. Even as an adult learner, I came back to college as an adult. I absolutely used the Writing Center, and it was invaluable to me. So I agree with Laura 100%. That's a wonderful resource for you.
All right. Great. Again, thank everyone for being here today. If you do have questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me. My email address is kmacon@mscc.edu. You can find that on the website under the completion coaches links, under the quick links on that homepage. But again, thank everyone for being here today. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time.